Hello everyone. As I stated in my last video, my intent is to bring some awareness this month, the month of September, to ovarian cancer awareness, since it is the month that they have designated for that particular type of cancer. Not that any other cancer is any less important, of course it's not, but this is the month that they have deemed for ovarian cancer. So I wanted to bring some awareness to it because I have had the disease, and I wanted this video to be about symptoms that they talk about online or doctors talk about. And I also wanted to tell you about my symptoms that I had that may have been atypical. So I have been a survivor for 9 years. At the end of February, it was 9 years since my surgery. It was February 29th, 2012. I was 56 years old. When I was 45 years old, I had fibroid tumors in my uterus, and they took my uterus out but left my ovaries. She asked me then, did I want to remove my ovaries because I was headed into menopause anyway? And I said, no, I wanted to go through it a more natural way and not take hormones. And besides, and I clearly remember telling her this, I'm not the one that's going to get ovarian cancer anyway. 9 years later, that made a liar out of me. I started to have bowel symptoms, painful bowel movements, and I'm sorry that this is just, I mean, there's no pretty way to talk about cancer. So just painful, horrible every day, and it was different for me. That was different for me. And so I went to a gastroenterologist who told me I had irritable bowel, and we started treating me for irritable bowel. It really wasn't getting any better. But I kept on with the treatment that he told me to do, and diet changes and things like that. Another symptom that I had was heartburn. And I don't mean just, a little heartburn because I ate spicy foods. I mean, water would give me heartburn, and it was relentless. It wouldn't go away. I was chewing Tums. I was taking tablets. I was, virtually trying not to eat anything but like bread or something like that because I was miserable with this heartburn, and it was constant. The other symptom that I had was bloating, and I noticed it like right under where my bra sits. One day it just was like, boom, there it was. Just, I was bloated, and I chalked that up to, the sands of time. They say your body changes as you get older. All these symptoms could be discussed and chalked up to something else. For instance, the irritable bowel, the heartburn. We were trying to get a handle on that by treating my stomach and gastrointestinal problems, and fatigue. Everyone's tired, but when I would say, but my fatigue is so bad that when I'm asleep, I'm dreaming in my sleep that I'm tired. And still, they didn't pay much attention to me on that. And so, this went on for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months. And then all of a sudden I got a cyst on my right ovary. It was very painful, and I knew that's what it was because when I was younger, I had them all the time. And I went to the doctor because you want to make sure it's not your appendix or something. So I did go to my primary care doctor. He pushed on that, and I about kicked him in the face because it hurt so bad. And he sent me upstairs to gynecology right away. to be checked out, and they did an ultrasound in their office, and they said yes, and it was a large cyst, and they wanted me to come back in 6 weeks and make sure that it was gone. And in the meantime, they wanted me to do a blood test called a CA-125. It's not completely definitive, but it is frontline, along with an ultrasound, to find ovarian cancer. If the number is over 35, then they need to look further and see what else is going on. Mine was 46. The doctor called me, told me she was concerned about that number, but in my mind, it was only, 11 points over range. So I said, yeah. And she said, no, it's like you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. This number, it's either in the norm or something's going on if it's out of the norm. So, I was working full-time at a very stressful job. Life was happening. Kids were growing up, moving out, and, I just had other things that, I was going to get better. It was just a little heartburn. It was just a little bit of bloating. So, and I also thought, maybe I am just being a baby, saying I'm tired all the time. Maybe I am just being a baby. So I kind of shut up about that, quit talking about it. And so the 6 weeks came and went, and they had me come in for another ultrasound. And the tech that time who did the ultrasound, ultrasounds are no big deal. Ladies, most of us have had a pelvic ultrasound in the past. It's no big deal. It's uncomfortable. It's a little awkward and embarrassing, but it doesn't hurt. I don't know what she was doing to me, but she was killing me. And finally, she said, okay, well, I think I have enough pictures. And I said, well, I really hope you do, because this was not fun. So she sent the pictures in to the radiologist at the hospital, the big hospital. And this was on a Friday. And on Monday morning at my office, I got a phone call from the hospital, and I recognized the main number of the hospital because I worked for them. And I answered, and it was a radiology tech, and she said they needed me to come in to main central radiology for yet another ultrasound with the radiologist in the room. And that's when I got the sinking feeling in my stomach that maybe something really is wrong. And so I went in the next day, and that's when they found it on ultrasound. Now, some women, they have a CA-125 in the thousands or the hundreds. Mine still was at 46 at that point in time. After my surgery, it went up to 247. And then we had to get it down into normal from there with chemotherapy. So, again, my symptoms were bowel symptoms, heartburn, bloat, and fatigue. Online, they still don't say much about heartburn, and it's a big symptom. And when you think about it, if you got anything, foreign growing in your system down here, it's making way and it's pushing things out of the way, moving your stomach around, and just the littlest thing. Things are pretty tiny in there. And it's pushing up, and it causes heartburn. The tumor was pushing on my colon and causing that issue. And you don't think about that, when you're going through it, and until later it's like, oh yeah, that's probably what that was, or that's probably what that was. I did get to the gastroenterologist and told him, kindly, nicely, women that come in that are in their, at least the ones that are in their 50s, don't just assume that it's heartburn, because it wasn't for me. So those were my symptoms. I was taken into surgery after that pretty quickly, and they took out everything that they needed to, some lymph nodes, my ovaries, my tubes, everything that, could come out, came out, and they tested different parts and of my body for, biopsied it and everything. And they said that I was lucky because I was stage 1. And I said, but I still have cancer. Yes, but if you're going to have cancer, you want stage 1. And I said, okay, I just wasn't comfortable with it because to me, it had been going on for, a while, like a few months. And I was not feeling well. And I just thought, I'm sicker than stage 1. So I went into chemotherapy, had a port put in my chest so they could administer the chemotherapy through the port instead of accessing a vein every time. And I had 2 chemos 3 weeks apart. And the first time, the CA-125, they check it every time, and it's supposed to come down significantly every time. Like I said, I started at 247, and after the first treatment, it came down to 180 something. And then the next time, it only went down to 90. And I asked the nurse, I said, that doesn't seem like, by the third one, you're supposed to be in normal limits. And I was still way far away from that. And she said, it's fine. We just keep doing this chemo. Oh, okay. So the chemo after the third one made me so deathly ill. I thought, I just can't do it anymore. And I talked to the doctor, and she said, okay, I understand. She was great, too. She said, I understand. We'll do a CAT scan, and we'll do blood work, and we'll see where you're at, and then we'll discuss. So I said, okay. So we did the scan, and she called me back with that result, and she said, you're not stage 1. You've never been stage 1. You still have tumors that are growing. You should have been staged at stage 3C. It goes ABC, and C is the closest one to stage 4, which is usually a death sentence. And usually my stage is a death sentence. And she said, and I asked her, I said, if I stop doing the chemo now with this knowledge in front of us, what am I looking at? She said, about 6 months. So I went ahead and completed my chemo, and I was still at 76 on my number when I stopped. I had told my family and my friends, I'd promised them I would do my treatment. I would do 6 were prescribed. I did my 6, and then I was just like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I'm still here. My number continued to go down and down and down. And for the last 9 years, except for mentally being screwed up from it all, because you are forever screwed up from it, worrying about everything, and I'm high anxiety to start with. It went down into normal limits. The lowest I ever got was 20, which that was perfect. As of last year, let me tell you this. Any doctor I ever saw said, if your CA-125 doubles or more than doubles in one test from where it had been, you have a recurrence and we need to get on it. Was told that for 8 years. Last year, it did that. It went up to 55. We did scans. We did a PET scan. They saw nothing. They cannot find cancer. They said, well, it must be something else. And I'm leery about it. But they said, it can have something to do with your digestive system and, inflammation, and it's picking up the inflammation, and it's not really cancer. And it's been a year. Its last check was 44.7, and I'm due to go back next Friday, September 10th, and have another one done. can update you on that. But I wanted this first video to be about my symptoms and what to watch for, because you can just put it all off very easily to something else. And I don't want you to do that. And if you feel like something in your gut, it's wrong, or you got something going on, you need to be sure and advocate for yourself and make sure that they do at least blood test and a baseline ultrasound of your pelvis, because it's very important. And once you start noticing symptoms, it's usually out of control. So thanks for listening. As always, if you have any questions for me, leave them down below and I will try my best to answer them based on my experience. And I'll be back with more on this subject this month.